trajectory. Hydrocarbon will bring essential revenues, but those revenues must be utilized to expand our economy, to increase the competitiveness of our economy, and open up new opportunities in new areas, areas that existed a long time ago, but we did not have the revenue to unlock the potential of these areas. Guyana has all the natural assets to be a leading food producer in the region. But food production today must be backed by appropriate technology and investment in infrastructure that will ensure that agriculture is sustainable and resilient to climate change and the effects of climate change. That requires capital. And this is one example of how the revenues from oil and gas can be deployed to position Guyana not only for the benefit of Guyana, but to position Guyana to contribute significantly to the food security of the region as a whole. I've said this more than one time. The prosperity of Guyana must bring prosperity to the region as a whole. Guyana biodiversity and environmental wealth is well documented. Our forest stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon. The standing value of our forest is over $500 billion US. Our forest has the potential of earning in excess of $100 million US in carbon credit in an annualized way. This alone can drive tremendous development. To back our forests is the opportunities that reside in the other natural resource sector, whether it's bauxite, gold, diamond. We're 36% of Guyana, comprised of highly mineralized area. What that means is that we are very rich in minerals such as gold, diamond, bauxite, commercial deposits of copper. These are all areas that we can now support to be competitive with the investment necessary, whether it's the roadways, the opening up of these areas, in a way that is sustainable, investing in the right technology so that we can maximize output whilst protecting the environment. Food production, as I said before, is an important part of the development trajectory of our country. But all of this, the development, the infrastructure transformation, the economic transformation of our country, requires the human resource transformation. That is why we're investing heavily in health and education, and we're using the best who are at this, whether it's the overhaul of the management system for our health care, ensuring that we have an education system that just does not deliver academic education, but one that position our educational output into areas that the future economy would require, whether it's robotics, software engineering, software development, coding. These are all areas in which we want our human resource potential to be positioned to take advantage of. Our investment portfolio goes beyond oil and gas, goes beyond agriculture, human transformation. We want to build a knowledge economy that is supported with investment in ICT, making Guyana a natural hub for ICT services. We're also building in our development incentives so that multinationals can move their regional headquarters to Guyana to support their investment, to support their position in the market in the region, Latin America and the Caribbean. As we move forward as a country, important to the development and transformation that will take place is governance, democracy, transparency. And we're working aggressively on ensuring that our democratic credentials is embedded in the moral aspect of the development of our country. We want, and that is why the relationship with the US is so critical. because we share common values on democracy, on freedom, as discussed today in the meetings with the Secretary of State. The issues of freedom and democracy, reaching out, embracing a system that ensures equality, that ensures we don't build an economy in which disparity and inequality exists and contribute to social tension. These are all critical things that we are addressing. That is why we have launched an aggressive housing program in which every single Guyanese family can aspire to home ownership. We have launched a program, an aggressive water treatment program, a program that will see, an energy program that will see the cost of electricity coming down, the cost of energy coming down by 50%. When the cost of energy is reduced by 50%, it unlocks the potential for manufacturing, industrial development, agro-processing. Bringing the natural gas to shore opens up the opportunity for the production of agrochemicals. And all of this is done not 10 years from now. All of this is earmarked to be done in the immediate and medium term. Whilst we are advancing this, we are also finalizing a national energy master plan. That master plan seeks to monetize the potential of our natural gas so that we can position Guyana to become a major player in terms of energy production along the Guyana Shield Corridor, linking Guyana with northern Brazil and ensuring that the infrastructural development that is required to unlock the potential in the Guyana northern Brazil corridor can be made with the development of a deep water harbor and the potential that comes with that in terms of transport and logistics. I know I've exceeded my time in terms of outlining in a brief way the development trajectory of our country. And I've not spoken as yet about our investment in hospitality, expanding tourism, building out of the infrastructure, the new bridges and highways that is already on stream, major investment in infrastructure transformation. But I want to use the remaining time here to listen to you, listen to some of your questions, and address those. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, President Ali. And again, welcome to the Atlantic Council studios. It's a real honor to have you here as part of our Leaders of the Americas series. And as you outlined as well, looking at the incredible richness of the U.S. partnership with Guyana that extends from climate change to working together on transnational crime to issues across the Caribbean. And we see the impact and influence of the Guyanese here every day, the Guyanese diaspora here in the United States and places like Florida, New York, and even here at the Atlantic Council as well. This is your, as you mentioned, this is your first public engagement as part of your first official trip to Washington. You mentioned your meeting with the Secretary Blinken earlier today. And you also mentioned that a couple of your goals of this trip is to bring harmonization between U.S. and Guyanese plans, both public sector and private sector, and also to further expand on the common values shared between the U.S. and Guyana. For you, what does this first official trip to Washington mean for the future of U.S.-Guyanese relations? And if you could also speak in even greater specificity insofar as what you want to accomplish in these next few days here in Washington.
Well, the relationship with Guyana and the United States is no secret. The United States is a valued partner of Guyana. We share a very special relationship. The U.S. has always been very supportive of the growth and development of our country. And more recently, the U.S. has been very instrumental and supportive in ensuring that democracy prevailed in our country. And that came about because of the fundamental value system of the U.S., the way the United States values democracy. And the political party I come from, we share those values. The vast majority of Guyanese stood up and ensured that shoulder to shoulder, we fought to secure democracy. Because fundamentally, the Guyanese society and the Guyanese population believes strongly in democratic values. We have to start from there. Secondly, we see the U.S. as an important partner. And that importance is already demonstrated in the contribution the U.S. private sector is making in the development of our country, their participation in the oil and gas sector. And what we are seeking to do is to expand that participation in all the other sectors, the emerging areas, ensuring that the U.S. is at the table on climate change, on us finding the balance in terms of energy security, working together in dealing with transnational crime. We have had an aggressive increase in our collaboration and partnership in dealing with security issues. I mean, we have never had so many high-level engagement in the security sector. Over the last 2 years, we have seen tremendous expansion of that. And this is because we have been able to sit around a table and identify the priority areas, the common interests, and the way in which we have to approach issues of security. And that requires collaboration, it requires cooperation, sharing of information, sharing of intelligence. And that relationship is blossoming and is delivering fruits.
Yeah.
And it is in this context that this trip becomes critical. We want the U.S. private sector to play a greater role, to go after greater opportunity. We want all the different departments within the United States system to understand the full potential and to participate in unlocking the opportunities that come with those potential. That is why in the meeting this morning with the Department of Commerce, we were able to identify low-hanging fruits. We were able to identify areas that we can immediately target to support the aspirations of Guyana, whilst at the same time open up the opportunities for the U.S. Private sector.
And looking at those opportunities, President Ali, you were mentioning before in your remarks the steps that your government has taken to prepare for and manage the newfound oil resources, and the fact that for you, it will not be a hydrocarbon-based economy, right? And the importance of development across the economy, healthcare, education, ICT, investments in infrastructure. What is your strategy insofar as prioritizing the many investments that are being desired by you and your government as Guyana is entering this next phase of growth?
You know, one of the things about oil and gas and the type of momentum and public positioning that Guyana is receiving is that it creates a lot of expectations locally. Because a lot of time the country is positioned in a way that we have already arrived at a position where we are a rich country, which is far from the truth. This is going to take time, and the revenues, the type of revenues that will come in from oil and gas are not immediately available. So what we are doing is that we are approaching development from a multidimensional lens, not focusing everything on infrastructure or focusing everything on the social services. It's finding the balance in terms of the investment. Because we have to ensure we grow the country in such a way that the private sector is growing, creating jobs, whilst we create an enabling environment for that growth in the private sector. We are growing the skills depth of the population so that they are prepared for the new economy and the opportunities that will come in the new economy. At the same time, we continue to expand our environmental credentials on climate change and be a leader in ensuring that forest is positioned in its rightful place and that the world values that forest and the biodiversity that comes with it in a payment system that supports the national development. Fourthly, it's about our food security, not only for Guyana, but for the region, investing in agriculture and building out opportunities in which we bring the younger generation to participate in this economic outlay so that they can feel involved, they can feel a part of this transformation that is taking place. Balancing all of that with the investment that is required for the infrastructure. The build out of the country and the type of opportunities that will come, the economic opportunity and the type of growth that the private sector require from the government investment to create infrastructure that will support that growth and development. Unless we can create infrastructure to support the growth and development, then we'll be slowing the private sector involvement. Take, for example, the new hotels. For the new hotels to come on stream, it required us to put new roads, opening up new area of urbanization, if you want to put it in that context. So we cannot focus on one sector and say this is our priority and we're going after this. It is considered as a blend of different fruits in a cocktail.
Okay.
And bringing that together to give us a comprehensive and holistic view of development, keeping in mind the human aspirations. Because you cannot go too far away from what the aspirations of the people, what is the aspirations of the people. And the fundamental aspirations of the people, they want good quality education, good quality health care, good quality access to energy at a cheap cost, good quality access to water. So all of these investment has to be made simultaneously in an environment in the last 2 years that has not been helpful.
No.
The last 2 years, we had to deal with COVID. We're still dealing with COVID. Unusual weather pattern that led to a lot of flooding in Guyana. And then the supply chain crisis that continues. And now we see even more health challenges. So managing in that environment and having the type of accomplishment that we have had in that environment is, I think, it's rewarding for the people of our country.
You know, speaking about the many challenges being faced across the region, across the world, of course, in Guyana as well, and you mentioned food security, right? The challenges with high food prices, of course, globally energy prices as well, has real implications writ large. And this has been one of the action items from the Summit of the Americas just last month in Los Angeles, is formation of a working group on food security that Guyana is co-chairing. What do you hope to achieve insofar as bringing greater food security across the Caribbean writ large as part of these efforts in the following, say, months, given the crisis that we're seeing right now on food?
In the region itself, we have set ourselves a target of reducing our food import bill by 25% by 2025. So there is a very elaborate action plan as to how we'll achieve this as a region. It requires collective action. It requires restructuring of national budget to reflect this reality, that we are going to invest in food production as a priority. It requires investment in the technology. Fertilizer is a huge problem around the world now. Not only the price, but access to fertilizer. So working with the US in this committee allows us to address the multidimensional nature of the problem surrounding food security. It is not only about going to plant food. It is all the issues in the whole value chain and how the US can support the region in achieving this 25 by 2025. So that is the aim, cost of financing, access to financing, support in terms of technology transfer, hydroponics, high value crops. All of this is looking at the food production system in a holistic way. A major problem in the region is the transportation. How do we move food, the cost of moving food? So all of this is addressed in a holistic way. And that is what this subcommittee helps us to do.
Now, one of the things that was announced at the summit last month was a U.S.-Caribbean partnership to address the climate crisis 2030. I'd like to get your perspectives on what you see that plan as potentially achieving, and how could that work for Guyana as well as the rest of the region insofar as tackling some of the most pressing challenges that are being faced.
To begin with, the only way we can address the issue of climate change is through a collective effort. We cannot address climate change singularly. All of us must embrace this challenge and commit ourselves to targets that would mitigate the effects of climate change. The Caribbean region is one of the most affected regions in terms of climate disaster. So any support that comes to the region is support that is well received. And we see the U.S. as a strategic partner in helping the region to unlock concessional financing for adaptation and mitigation. The cost for adaptation and mitigation for the region is enormous.
Yeah.
One climate event can wipe out the entire GDP of one of these islands in the region. In one flood in 2005, 2006, wiped out 60% of our GDP in Guyana. So the vulnerability of the region to economic shock and disaster as a consequence of climate-related activity is not an imaginative thing. It is something that occurs on an annual basis. Yeah. So the support of the U.S. in pushing the agenda to unlock concessional financing and unlock financing to assist in adaptation and mitigation is critical.
President, we're almost out of time. I'd like to give you a moment to share with our audience, both here in person, but also the many people who are watching across the U.S. and regionally and probably across the world too. A final message insofar as where you see the trajectory of the relationship and how viewers should be looking at the future of Guyana.
So you should look at the relationship between Guyana and the United States in a very simple context. You will see two countries working together, trusting each other, supporting each other, a relationship that is built on stability, one that is built on values and principles that we share, human rights, democracy, freedom. And you will see a relationship that will redound to the benefit of the private sector of both countries. And ultimately, the people of both the United States and Guyana will benefit from this sustainable, long-lasting, value-based relationship that we're advancing.
And as we've spoken about, you can, of course, count on the Atlantic Council as a partner in that, in our Caribbean initiative, where we specifically work to bring together the public and private sector and have done work everywhere from financial inclusion to climate vulnerability to our newly forming energy working group and a whole host of issues to advance U.S. Caribbean interests and partnership. I want to, again, thank you for joining us today. Wish you much luck and success in the rest of your trip here to Washington and look forward to welcoming you back to the Atlantic Council or even better, visiting you in Guyana at some point in the future.
Thank you very much. And of course, we would like to welcome you to Guyana. We have already, in just the first day here in the U.S., we have been hearing about many trade delegations, private sector delegations that are planning to be in Guyana. We encourage this. We want to see collaboration between the U.S. private sector and the Guyanese private sector. The embassy in Guyana, led by the ambassador, has been doing a lot of work and opening up these opportunities and bringing these links. But I think now it's time for the two private sector to take the bull by the horn and really aggressively push this thing forward.
Well, those are excellent final remarks, President Ali, and I want to thank everybody who joined us for this Leaders of the Americas discussion. President Ali, thank you so much for being here, your delegation.
Thank you.
For being here, Vice President Jardeo, Ambassador Hines, and the whole delegation, and we look forward to the next time that we can welcome you back here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.